I'm joined today by Mr. Greyling, who's the COO of the ICTS Group and the ICTS Academy, and they're doing some interesting things in the online training space. And Leon, I'd like you to share with us some of the developments that are taking place on your side. Welcome to the studio.
Cheers. Thanks, Chris. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. Yeah, the online training space or online learning and development space is awfully interesting. ICTS has been training trustees and fiduciaries of retirement funds for well in excess of 15 years now. I think it's over 10,000 people that we've trained over that period. And after I spent a bit of time at Harvard Business School, where they were promoting heavily their online new capabilities that they had, and I always thought to myself, you know what, there's no ways you can learn properly online. You need to be in a classroom, you need to be amongst classmates and interacting with the facilitator. I decided when I got back to actually see what it was all about. So I registered for one of the Harvard online courses, and I was converted overnight. I mean, the fact that I could, lie in bed and start learning, or I could do it on my phone while waiting to pick up the kids or whatever it might be, it just gave me a whole lot of extra convenience. And I also found that the way the learning was structured, and the interactivity between different mediums and so on was innovative, and it made it quite fun and interesting. So I was having a chat to David Wheel, the head of ICTS, earlier this year, and we were talking about the training business and the need to help more trustees ultimately make better decisions for members. And we spoke about the challenge that trustees have from a timing perspective in terms of being able to dedicate time, not just to their role as a trustee, but to then actually learn so that they can fulfill that role better. And that's when I brought up online and what we could do online. And I think David was skeptical. He said, I'm not so sure about this. So he said, right, let's see if we can find the functionality or capability, first of all, that would allow us to do this in a way that is quality. And then let's also come up with a formula of how we take the current learning material that we have and turn it into an interactive online learning experience. So we spent the last 6 months or so focused on that and actually building that formula and experimenting. And we think we've done a pretty decent job in that regard. So if you don't mind, I'd actually like to show you quickly. I'll give you a bit of an indication of what we have built and where we are going from here in that regard. Right, so we started off really looking at the experience worldwide around online learning, and it's quite evident that it's growing in popularity. There's a definite upward trend. I mean, in the context of total learning and development around the world, it's still small, but definitely an increase in the number of learners that are actually now choosing online learning. And also remember that online learning allows you to almost learn more frequently. It's not about going on a course that lasts a whole 1 year totally out of the work environment. You're able to do this all in between, so keep your life going and learn at the same time. And when you unpacked this trend, it was quite evident that the emerging countries are driving a lot of this growth. And why is that the case? Well, I think it's really twofold. They're able to access learning that otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do. So it's about ease and quality of what is out there, but that they didn't have locally. But also, importantly, it's cost effective. So it's a lot cheaper to be able to deliver online learning than what it is to always put people in a classroom, people on aeroplanes, take the time out of work. It just is a lot more efficient in that respect. So it was quite clear to us that this is a growing trend. The question was, do the same principles apply to trustees of retirement funds or fiduciaries? And I think yes, because they have full-time jobs. They need to fulfill this responsibility outside of that, so the convenience is important. But then obviously also the costing thereof is a key factor for them. So really what we needed to answer to ourselves is, how do we now turn this into a good learning experience? So can we find that capability? Can we actually find the right formula in our own learning material to be able to deliver it to the customer base as we need to? So we set about doing that. And the first thing that we focus on is, can we create interaction? And what we quite liked through the functionality that we found and that we developed was that you can build the likes of video into it. So you can eyeball the facilitators, see what they're saying, see their expressions, and so on, and also then interact with that facilitator in some way, and bring other facilitators into the conversation as well, which you don't get when you're sitting in a classroom that often. You are also then able to mix video with the written word as well as with graphics. So it makes it quite interactive from that sense, and fresh as you go through it. It's not just like reading a long textbook with all written words. You've got the breaks, I suppose, that take place as you go through the learning. And we're able to think carefully about bringing in particular case studies or examples that allow the learner to experience real world, and even take that real world example and outside of this learning, go research that in their own right and do a little bit of extra work to understand that. And we've then been quite particular at trying to prompt the learner to actually contribute in their own right as well. So through comment functions and through the prompts that we put there with those light bulbs, is get them to actually talk about their feelings around it, respond in terms of their world and what they're experiencing, and then allow all of the people that are doing the course to actually interact with each other in that respect, as well as interact obviously with the facilitator of the course. And then bring in other people, as I mentioned earlier, and not just other people that we bring into the learning, but any material that's available in the market. It could be a talk by the governor of the Reserve Bank that's pertinent to a particular learning aspect. We have that ability to actually source information, to interview others, and to bring it into the learning experience, which we think makes it very, very interesting. And also what is important about this is we give flexibility to the learners to be able to come and go as they please. So you literally can start your learning, complete your first module or elements of the first module, go off and go make yourself a cup of tea, come back, log back in, and you can immediately go and resume where you left off at the time because it bookmarks you. So that's a lot of convenience that you ultimately get through the process. And then importantly, assessments are done online as well. So the full functionality is there in that respect. And what's quite different to then being in a classroom is that the results of that assessment is available to you immediately as well. So there's instant gratification and understanding of where you are within the learning process. It also limits people from moving on before completing different sections. So you can't just jump ahead in the learning. You have to go through it systematically to ensure that you build your knowledge as you go through the courses. And then for those in the industry where it is needed or particular, they're able to also submit for their CPD hours after having completed their assessments, and all of that takes place online, certificates issued, and so on to the participants. What we then found was the ability through the online, which you don't get through classroom learning, is to create communities where the learners can actually come together with others, not just the ones that are doing the course that they're doing, but others that are perhaps doing other courses, or who aren't doing a course at a particular time, but contribute and share information and learn from each other. And that's another way of enhancing the interactivity that we find is very useful, and that there's value for the learners in participating in almost the campus rather than just in the individual course that they are part of. And that campus is broad because we invite multiple people to the communities. And then not just is it available through PC or laptop, you're able to now also facilitate the learning through mobile, through apps that are available as well. So our courses are now all set up through an app environment that if you're traveling, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on the airplane, whatever it might be most convenient for the learner. So at the end of it, after going through this process now for the past 6 months or so, we become very committed to this picture. We really do believe that online learning is interactive. It's an efficient way of doing things. It's more cost effective, and it's actually a lot of fun for the learner as well. So we do believe it will be popular. We don't only offer our learning online. We still do put people in a classroom. A lot of people like to get together to learn as well. So we still do that the way that we've always done that. But we now will also be taking out all of our what we call the ICTS Academy courses in an online version as well. And that will then allow that option to learners to be able to do it in their own time anywhere as they ultimately see fit. So that's the journey that we have been on. It simply makes sense. That's the reality. That's how we see it. So it's an evolution of learning, and the intent is to ultimately get learning out to more people, so that we enhance the ecosystem, the retirement funding ecosystem, as we see it, and that is our mission. And that's it, Chris. That's where we are and how we become converted.
So well done. I think it is a great piece of work, and I really look forward to chatting to you about this more in the future.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks very much for the opportunity, and see you again.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.